Now, at Royal Rumble 92, when you were eliminated by Hulk Hogan in a scuffle, I understand that the crowd reaction in the building was actually cheering you over Hogan,
Right.
and supposedly they dubbed over it in the Coliseum video release.
That was in New York, New Albany.
Yeah.
And that's when I gave my notice that night, and this is a true story. You know, for whatever reason that happened, well, the reason that happened, Devin, we know that it was just simple. Hogan's run was over. And it wasn't that I was any better than him, it's just I was a new face, and I was better than him. So when they did that swerve right there, they thought that they were going to start booing me. Of course, in New York, they're not going to boo me. That's how it works. So when he comes back, and I'm not kidding, I'm not trying to be mean to him or anyone, he is putting on like a woman. And he's screaming in the back going, Vince, you motherfucker, you know, like Vince planned him to get booed. And so this and that, and I went to Vince's office, I said, Vince, I can't work in a place where a grown man acts like this. So I had my hand to Vince, I said, I'm going home, I'm done. I said, because everything you've told me has been a lie. Not a lie, it just hasn't come true. And I've lost a lot of money being here. So I'm letting you know, I'm done. He asked me, he said, can we just make it to WrestleMania? And it wasn't maybe a month after WrestleMania, I had had enough of the Warrior and I went home.
And the thing with Hogan, I mean, that was Bubba's wife. That thing is very bizarre to me, and I can't understand. I mean, it's just. So
Wasn't he in the house?
What?
Wasn't Bubba in the house?
Yeah, he was in the house, and I don't know. Maybe Hogan was going through a posing routine too. I mean, that is so. You know, you weren't with us today when we went and did the interview with Cowhead, and he brought that up. You know, and his producer was the one that exposed that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because his producer was also Bubba's producer, and Bubba gave him the tapes to hold. Why would you do that? So, I don't know. That's a very strange one. That's beyond me.
Yeah, we're giving you that segment, like Piper's Pit is going to be the snake pit. So I think you're going to like it. Fuck, I loved it. You know, it gave you time every week, man.
You had Hulk Hogan on there once, and apparently your DDT chants were outweighing Hogan's chants. You want to tell us about that situation?
Yeah, you fans cost me a lot of friggin' money. We did a thing where we wound up, he was pushing iron and measuring his pythons against the size of my pythons, and of course his pythons were larger. Not really. And then I wound up throwing powder in his face and DDTing him on the concrete, which I told him, you cannot be done, so we won't do it on the concrete. We'll do it on the platform. So, well, it's still not going to be fun. And I did it, and it split his skull. And went back to the back, and just like, stand right here, Jake. Oh my God. These people here in a couple of minutes, said they'll start chanting, Hulkster, Hulkster. He'll get up, he'll rip his shirt off, and God dang it, said, you guys are off to the fucking races, making money everywhere. I'm like, hell yeah, man, I'm fucking so pumped, man. I'm like, oh hell, I'm getting my big break, man. Finally, I'm getting it. And 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, nothing. And then all of a sudden they started, DDT. And Vince looked at me and he goes, it ain't happening. What do you mean? And we ran it. We ran that angle in two places: Providence, Rhode Island, and in Montreal. Sold out both places. Set records in both places. But the fans chanting DDT was a split of marketing, and of course they had billions of dollars invested in Hogan and marketing plan, and 35 cents in mine. So.
We all would go in and relax and frequent the nightclub, and in walks the future Hulk Hogan.
Right.
And he comes up to me and says, superstar, I want to know how to do two things. I want to know how to become a professional wrestler. He said, I have tried my best. I've gone to the office and they won't let me even have a tryout inside the sportatorium,
right,
inside their personal training
where they did
their taping and everything, yeah. And I said, well, you know, brother, you're just going to have to go away to some other town and learn how to be a wrestler, you know, or be persistent, you know, and not give up. And then eventually the door will open for you, because look at you. You're 6'6", 6'7", whatever he was, you know, you're
300 some odd.
yeah, huge man. And I said, the opportunity is just waiting for you. It just has to happen. So just hang on and keep trying. Keep beating the door down. Don't give up. Don't give up. I encouraged him.
Yeah.
I encouraged him. And so, and as it turned out, he took my look.
The ear cuff, you started.
The ear cuff, yeah.
Ripping the brothers.
yeah.
Pythons.
The Python took everything, and
When he
again.
was a heel, he took the beard, because when you were a heel in Japan,
Yes.
you had the black beard.
Had the beard,
And the,
yes,
the bleach blonde hair.
Yes.
Just like
Yes.
Ric Flair, just like Jesse Ventura.
Yes, but that's another compliment.
Oh, yeah,
that's
it's a
another
great
compliment. It's like
And he took it to the next level, and he made the best out of it.
Oh, and the timing was perfect.
Right.
It was absolutely perfect. It was just perfect. And then Vince
of course,
got
the
wind of
physique
him, and then the whole world opened up, and he became probably the world's most famous wrestler ever.
Right.
Nobody will be more famous than Hulk Hogan to this day. Some things came up with me and Hulk that I really regretted, and we finally worked out, and now we're great friends, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
But there were some issues that came up, and like I said, it's all water under the bridge.
Throw that python up there, brother. Throw that python up there, brother.
2 months later, Hogan and Bischoff came in, and they just tried to kill everything, you know. When I left right after main event, yeah. Well, that was when Hogan and Bischoff came in, and you know, because at that point I could see what was going on, you know, and it's like that's when it was really starting to piss me off, you know. And I really started to find out what pieces of shit Bischoff and Hogan really were, you know. And they were pissing me off because they were like doing it to my friends, you know, like guys that you were trying to build TNA with Rude and AJ and especially Kurt Angle, you know. I mean, he went on, you know, in the media markets on radio, and they were burying them, you know. And they really didn't understand it, like, I mean, because it makes no sense, you know what I mean? Yeah. But if you've been around it before, you realize what's going on, you know, and they couldn't really relate to what was going on, because like, why would you do that, you know? So I had enough, you know. So and that's what led me to start telling the truth about, you know, Bischoff and Hogan, and they didn't really like it, you know. 'Cause I warned him. I told him it was not gonna be nice, man. I told him that, and I told that to Bischoff, and fuck him. It's still not over, you know. I'll see those guys again.
You know, the thing got carried away on Twitter, and my brother, like I said, my brother just isn't going to ever back down from anybody, you know. And then he doesn't like Hogan to begin with, and he doesn't like Flair, and you know, so my brother likes you, you're good. If he don't like you, he don't care, and he'll just do whatever he can. And you know, my brother's been pretty successful, and is with his money and everything, so money's never an issue for him. So when Hogan made some comments and stuff about the TNA and being down there and all that, my brother just let him have it. And then there was some things being said, and my brother brought up some stuff that was pretty personal. It was true, but they didn't want it to come out. So and then, you know, of course, I don't know, I wasn't there. They said he said something to Hogan's new wife or new girlfriend or something. I wasn't there, I didn't see any of it, but I know Hogan, I know the legality issues of it, yet he did. There was a couple lawyers hired, and there was some stuff taken out, but my brother ain't backing down from nobody, nothing, you know, so.
And it turns out everything he said about TNA has been proven true.
everything, you know, I think that's the funny, you know, my brother, he says it, and it's kind of raw, and, you know,
off whatever it is, but it's always true, or it always comes true. And so it's, you know, it's not this fictitious stuff that he makes. Everything that he validates or says comes true or is true, and sometimes people just don't like hearing it. You know, I think that's what people have. And he's like the only one that'll say something. Everybody's worried about, oh, don't do that. You know, you'll lose this, or you won't be in the Hall of Fame. My brother don't care.
Yeah.
You know, he'll just say what he wants to say.
I was not a fan of Hulk when I was in WCW because this is my opinion, okay, and this is why I didn't like what he stood for, in that he always used to talk about the team. You know what I'm saying? Like, we gotta make sure this guy's on the team. You know, this guy's got a team. He always talked about the team, but like he had his own locker room and stuff and everything and all that.
Yeah.
And that just rubbed me the wrong. It just rubbed personally. I didn't like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're talking about the team, like, well, you know, Hall and Nash are in the locker room with the boys. You know, but like all these guys talking about team, like, well, if we're a team, why you guys have your own locker rooms? That's not a. That was really the only issue I had, like, with Hulk, with that. Like, I didn't like him using the team concept when you basically are just got your own, you're off on your own, you're above everybody. You know what I mean? I didn't like that.
It was a lot of fun back then, but I remember going out with the boys afterwards. I never made it back to the hotel. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Hulk Hogan, Brian Knobbs. Although it was Brian Knobbs who pulled me into the limo with them. I went downtown, and I was never so scared in my life. All these crowds had gathered around, found out we were down there, and Hulk Hogan and all the guys were there, and I couldn't get out if I wanted to. These crowds just amassed us. And you know, I didn't feel good about that. You know, I don't like being closed in like that, but it was an interesting time, and we were going from bar to bar, you know. Hulk Hogan, I don't know if people know, he was a musician also. So he can play that electric guitar a little and do this. So he was jumping up on stage with these bands and just hanging out, doing his thing, and we were following him around. But these boys were doing some things that I wouldn't participate in. And I'll never forget, that was the day that my career was marked. Because they were doing things that I'm not going to say here. But,
I don't believe it about Knobs.
Yeah. Knobs and the guys were offering this stuff to me, and I wasn't participating. Yeah, but I would drink a good beer with you. I used to have a good sleep with you. You know, a good, mixed drink with you. But I ain't doing the other stuff. And that day, I got treated different after that.
I wrestled Hogan, I would say at least, well, no, the first time I wrestled Hogan was he came to Georgia with Georgia Championship Wrestling. And Tommy Wildfire Rich went to Ole Anderson, who was the booker, and said, you should work a program with Hogan because he's about one of the few heels that Tony could work with. Back in the old days, the heel was always bigger than the babyface in the older days. You know, they didn't have little heels. Yeah. And they wanted me to work an angle with Hogan because he had the big muscles, he was big and everything. And Ole Anderson refused to build Hogan up. So when I went to New York, Hogan was already there when I went there. So me and Hogan, we used to wrestle. Man, tell you a funny story though. We was in what was it, the Spectrum or the Captain Center, and I'm sitting there. Vince Sr. come in. Hogan is probably about 5 or 10 feet from me. He said, Tony, what do you want to do with the big dummy? Press slam him? I go, yeah, I press slam him. He said, press slam him. He walked out the door. That's why they treated Hogan.
That was Vince Sr.
That's why when Hogan came back, he told Vince Jr., when I come back, I want to get the belt the first night. Or they promised him they're going to give him the belt. He said, well, I want it the first night. And if I don't win it the first night, I'm getting on a plane, I'm going back to Minneapolis. He came into Madison Square Garden, he won the belt the first night, and the territory exploded. So he never went back to Minneapolis.
What was it like dealing with Hogan? Because I guess you had probably met him in WWE, but this was the first time you're actually having a confrontation with him in the ring and working with him.
Yeah, I hardly knew him at all. And the first night didn't go well because when we got nose to nose on the Nitro, we went to commercial break, and to come back out of it, we were still nose to nose, and the camera guys were going to go, okay, we're off for whatever it was, a minute or two. So I broke character a little bit when you're nose to nose, and there was a live crowd there, and Hulkster is all business about his business. I'd never been around him, so I kind of smirked at him, and I'll never forget, he looked at me and goes, hey brother, knock that smile, he goes, take that smile off your face, I'll knock it off. And I tried to walk up to him afterwards, he kind of blew me off. I said, I'm sorry, Mr. Hogan, sir. I'm like, I didn't mean to. He goes, that's okay, man, but you don't ever break character out there.
You started off Hulk Hogan in a way. He worked one of his first territories here. Could you talk about hearing about him and bringing him to Memphis?
Yeah, Louis Gillette was a booker down in Florida, and Louis called me and said, Jerry, I've got this kid down here that is big and looks like Charles Atlas, but he can't wrestle. But I think if you would spend some time with him, you could turn him into a talent. So I told Louis, send him up. And when he got there, when he arrived at my house, I thought, holy cow. Louis didn't describe this guy. I mean, he was the most impressive person I'd ever seen. So we did that, I called my production people, and we did that first video where we started at his feet, panned the camera up, had him pose, and he just, you know, there's a funny thing about a wrestler, and you've probably experienced this. Most people, when they start out in the business, are pretending to be a wrestler, and then something snaps in their head, and they go, I am a wrestler. Hogan, that didn't snap in his head until he left here. Here he was pretending to be a wrestler, and of course he was learning. I think he might have been, when Vince Sr. first, when I sent him from here up there, it hadn't snapped yet, and I think that's what Sr. noticed. You know, he doesn't really think of himself as a wrestler. I think it happened when he was overworking for Vern Gagne. I think it dawned on him, I am a wrestler.
And when he came here, he was known as Terry Boulder, and I think you gave him the name the Hulk. Is that true?
Yes, his real name was Terry Belay, and he introduced himself as Terry Boulder. And then when we did that interview, I said, I think we're going to call you the Hulk. And he said, well, I don't want to get in trouble with the
comic book
character. And I said, no, as long as you don't call yourself the Incredible Hulk. Hulk is a descriptive adjective. He said, oh, okay. So we just called him the Hulk.
And I've heard you say this isn't true, but the way he tells it in his book is you saw him on TV with Lou Ferrigno, who was the real Hulk, and you thought he looked bigger than the Hulk.
No, that didn't happen.
He also said he sweated through 25 belts a month. That he sweated so much that he would sweat through the leather of the WWE belts, and they'd have to replace it 25 times in a month.
Well, now that may be true. I don't know what his condition was.
Yeah.
But my wife, when he was sitting there at the table, she ran up and got burgers, Big Mac or whatever, and he was eating 4 hamburgers and 4 fries, 2 or 3 Cokes, and he was wet. This is before he got ready for the shoot, and my wife went and brought him a towel, and then after it was all over and they left, she said, I've never seen anybody sweat like that. The chair he was sitting in was wet. Now, I don't know what that condition is. I don't know if it's steroids causes you to sweat, or nerves, or I don't know what it was. But yeah, he sweated a lot.
Are you happy that WWE has put him back in the Hall of Fame now after all the controversy that he had over the past few years?
Well, I think that controversy was tragic, and yes, I think it would be hard for us to have a true representative of the wrestling business without Hulk being included, because, you know, he's the nearest thing to replacing Gorgeous George that there's ever been.